Hey, just a quick tip today. If you are reinstalling the shifters in a Toyota pickup or 4Runner with a manual transmission, a lot of guys can get these out and then they struggle to get them reinstalled. And also, some of the problem areas with these, you see down in there, looks like a bunch of chunks of rubber. That is the shifter bushing. It's supposed to look like this. Now I have to check with Toyota to see if this is the correct one. This is for my 3-liter Toyota pickup. This is on a Toyota Tacoma with a 4-cylinder. It's probably the same bushing, but I gotta verify before I install this one. But I will show you how to install the shifters. Anyways, in the transfer case, try and get some light in there. There is a spring. You have to be careful when you put the shifter in, because this spring, a lot of people just throw the shifter in there, wiggle until it falls in, but they can get the shifter on the wrong side of the spring, and then it will not shift properly, or it'll be hard to shift. The shifter needs to go on the flat side over here. So you have to drop the shifter in at an angle and then bring it back up, which will depress the spring over to the side. And what that does is when you bring it out of 4-wheel drive low, it'll automatically push the shifter over to the left so you can go up into 2-wheel drive. And this one just has a snap ring that'll hold the shifter in, whereas the transmission shifter has a twist lock that is spring loaded, and it can be difficult to install as well. I'm going to set the camera down and I will show you how to install those. Now this is the transmission shifter. You can see more of that rubber is stuck up here. While I'm waiting to hear back from Toyota, I'll show you how to install this. There's 2 slots in the side. Those line up with a pin on each side of this shift tower. So I'm going to drop it in with those slots going sideways. And you have to wiggle it a little bit until you feel it engage into the transmission. And this transmission was set in neutral. You may have to go drop it in at a different position if your transmission is in one of the gears. But if you wiggle it, it should drop in. That plastic bushing on the end of the shift shaft should find its way home. And on this lock collar, you can see there's a slot with a groove, and then there's a detent there and a big spring that holds pressure up on it. So after you get it twist locked in, the spring lifts up on it and that pin falls into this detent over here. These are extremely difficult to get installed when you have a new bushing, which is why I'm demonstrating with the old bushing so you guys don't see me swearing too much. You have to keep pushing pressure down as you rotate it. And there's a flat spot on each side. If those are going with the transmission directional facing towards the front of the truck, then you know you got it locked into place. It also popped up a little bit once I got it into that spot, so I know we're good. Now if I had put the new bushing in first, it would have been holding the shifter probably around this point, which requires you to use more spring pressure to install it. Now I will show you how to install the transfer case shifter. So as you can see, I'm dropping it in at an angle to the right side of that spring. This also has the same 2 pins and the grooves on the side of this ball. Drop it in with the shaft off to the right of the spring. And then we're going to have to rotate this front to back as we're going off to the left until you find the correct shift fork engagement. Let me pull that back out and show you guys again. See if I can get a little more detail behind that spring. Okay, underneath that spring, you can see the slot over here, and then off to the left, there's another slot up there. That's where that shifter locks into, and as it pivots in that slot, it moves the shift rail. So once again, off to the right, push the spring to the left, and now I need to move forward and back until it drops down into that slot. And now we have the snap ring to reinstall. This also has a big spring, so you have to push down on this plate and install the snap ring at the same time. Now, if you wear a set of mechanics gloves, it can make this a little easier because you don't have as much strain on your fingers. But sometimes you can get one side started first and then move over to the other side. So I have this snap ring started in the groove on this side. Once they get started, you can kind of work your way around until you hear it and feel it snap in. And that's in, should be good. Before I put the boot on, I'm gonna test it, make sure it works. So 2-wheel drive, 4 high, that's neutral, and 4 low. That's it. If you have to replace the bushings, it will make them a little more difficult. Typically, it's the transmission shifter that the bushings wear out on, because the 4-wheel drive shifter doesn't get used nearly as much. This is all inside out here. This bushing was full. This boot was folded inside out, and it created kind of a pocket up on the top, and that would allow water to pool if this vehicle was going through a creek crossing, lots of rain. It would allow water to sit up in there and slowly work its way into the shaft. Then at that point, if you have the boot installed down here, it's got nowhere else to go except for into the transfer case. This guy's probably lucky he hasn't been in water situations like that. I did check the transfer case fluid when I did the clutch, and there was no signs of water. But one thing to look out for when you're putting this back on is that the boot doesn't have a depression in the top, that it's turned right side out. There's also a boot on the transmission shifter. So I reinstalled that. And then once I find out if that other boot or bushing I have will fit, I'll install it and then put the rest of this together. But that's how you get the shifters back into the transmission and transfer case. Hey, if you found this video helpful, hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.